I'm Tracy Osborne, and you're listening to the Daring Woman podcast. Imagine the story of a generation being altered by women who were empowered to live their truth and in turn can empower others to live theirs. It's time to rewrite the narrative. Hi, ladies. Welcome to another episode of the Daring Woman podcast. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. And with me today, and of course, I forgot to ask her before we came on air how to pronounce her name, so I'm probably going to butcher it. But with me today is Indrani Goradia. And
Perfect.
Did I do it right?
You got it spot on.
Wait, I was practicing that before I got on the phone with you so I could ask you how to pronounce it. Anyway, she is an absolute delight. I was like, we've got to get on the air before you and I just start talking and having all kinds of a party. So we're going to have fun talking with Indrani today. And we're going to talk about self-care. I think that's going to be a big topic or a big portion of our call today. So something that I know that most of us are really, really bad at, including myself. So Indrani, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Tracy, thanks for making time for me. I know that you have a long list of people who want to be with you at your party, and I appreciate the invitation.
Well, it's my pleasure. I have a feeling that you and I are going to get along quite well.
I think so.
Just from the few minutes we talked before we got on air. So, like I do with everybody else, let's start with you telling us about your story.
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Like Tracy said, my name is Indrani Goradia. I was born in the West Indies, in Trinidad and Tobago. And the beginning of my life started in not abject poverty, poor, but not poverty. However, there has always been abuse in the family, generational abuse, which I didn't understand until much later. I really didn't know that I was abused until I had my first child, and I had my first child at 31. And what happened was that the baby was crying, babies cry, and it was 2:00 in the morning, and I was tired, and I'd done everything I knew how to do. And my son wouldn't stop crying, and I had a thought, and the thought was this: slap the baby, and the baby will stop crying. And I don't know, in the moment, I don't know what took over my brain, but the other part of my brain said, are you crazy? So, yeah, I remember that. So you're going to give pain, more pain, and that pain will stop the crying. And I knew that meant something was wrong with me. I was very fortunate in that I did not marry a man who had been abused. Now, please remember, I didn't even know that I was abused, so it's not something that I was actively searching. Hey,
Sure.
On the list of questions, were you or were you not abused? It was luck of the draw.
Right.
He'd never been hit. And so I went to him and I said, something's wrong. I want to hit our baby. And he said, we need to figure this out. And that baby is now 35 years old. I have never hit our children. I do have to confess that it took me many more years to understand that screaming and yelling and sarcasm are also forms of abuse. And I have been guilty of that. I've stopped for many, many years, many decades, but I still feel guilty that my little children had to suffer because I wasn't adult enough to understand that those are not adult behaviors.
Yeah.
So there it is.
It's interesting that you say that. I also grew up with the screaming and berating and belittling and sarcasm, and unfortunately, so did my kids. And yeah, you look back on it and you're like, well, it's no wonder they don't listen. I mean, they've become deaf to you yelling. So
Exactly.
unless you absolutely completely lose your shit, they just don't listen. And that's, nobody wants to live like that. It makes everybody feel icky.
And they don't have any choice, right? It's not like they could say, "Hey, you're crazy. I didn't ask for a crazy parent, so I'm out of here."
Right.
They're stuck.
Yeah.
They have nowhere to go. And so when they tune out with their technology, that's their way of saying, I don't want any part of this craziness. And they find different crazy online.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about, yelling at our kids and all of that. And, I picked up that you said you still feel guilty. All these years later, you're still carrying that guilt. And so I'm curious why you haven't let go.
I don't know why I haven't let go of the guilt. And I have a theory. My theory is that my body still holds the fear that I could still be abused because of my past. Mm-hmm. And I'm 66, so I really haven't been abused for almost, 30 years? Right. Or maybe 35, because in my late 20s, I think some of that yelling and screaming from my abuser was still going on. Mm-hmm. And so when I hear people yelling and screaming, I have a visceral reaction. My body starts to tense. My stomach gets all messed up. And I think, oh my God, I have such a muscle memory for this. Mm-hmm. And I think I still feel guilty because I know that my children might have a muscle memory. And so when I say to them, and I still apologize, I remember when, I'll tell them something. I remember when blah, blah, blah happened and I didn't react in the way that I should. And I'm really sorry. I hope that somehow I can intercept that memory and make it whole for them, because I'm trying to make it whole for me. That's my theory.
Which is valid. It's a very valid theory, but you can't make that whole for them. Only they can do that now.
And that right? Is absolutely correct. Yes, that is absolutely correct. And they tell me, my children tell me, Mom, we don't remember. Mom, we don't remember that. Yeah. And I do. And
yeah. And it's funny how what we remember and what they remember are just completely opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm grateful that whether they're lying or not, they're telling me they don't remember. And I think another part of me is I want to remember when I wasn't whole. So I will remember to never forget.
Sure.
I never want to do that again.
Sure.
Ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally get that.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I think there might be a little bit of a lag, but I was going to say that, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way, but can you forgive yourself and let go of that guilt and still remember?
I think maybe I'm more there than I think. Yeah. Because it's not, when I say I still remember when, it's like maybe once a year.
Okay.
Well, so it's not like I'm living it every day. But Tracy, to be honest, when I remember.
Oh, yeah.
I I remember one time my husband said to me, do you know what your face looks like when you scream and yell? And girl, that struck me like lightning, because I used to look at my abuser's face and think, your face is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Why is your face doing that? And my husband asking that question, I thought, damn, is my face like that?
Right.
And then I started to think of what my face was doing. Because even if I wasn't yelling, was my face doing something to show my severe displeasure? And so I was like, oh my God, there are so many things to this parenting journey that we're on. That, we all do our best, right? We all. When I did that, it was my best, and now I'm doing this, and this is my best. And we can only ever do our best in any given moment.
Exactly. I want to segue into the self-care portion, because I know that is really, really big with your foundation. And I also want to touch base on Indrani's Light Foundation. So let's talk about the foundation, and then let's talk a little bit about self-care.
Okay, so the reason I started the foundation was as another step in the journey. I was fortunate enough that I had resources and I was able to get help to end violence in my generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my second child left for college, my last child, I was thinking, well, what do I do now? My friends were saying, why don't you just play golf? And I thought, why don't you just shoot me?
Right.
And someone else said, why don't you sell real estate? And I thought, shoot me twice. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Now, please, I am not putting down golf or real estate. It just wasn't for me. And so I thought, what can I do based on my journey and my life? What can I do really well? And I thought I could teach people how to stop violence. Well, where am I going to find those people? Oh, gee, maybe you have to go back to school and get a psychology degree. I thought, I'm not doing that. Where do I find people who want to stop violence? Aha, they go to women's shelters. So I started calling shelters and asking, could I come and do some workshops? And they were thinking, who the hell are you? And why are you calling me? You're not a social worker. You don't have a psychology degree. You've never even worked in a shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to some friends, and one woman said, you need some credibility. Just Indrani calling somebody, you could be a crazy person. So I thought, okay, what gives my work credibility? And that's when we decided to create the foundation. And we created wonderful classes. The classes are at indranislight.org. The classes are how to say no, how to set boundaries, everything you could want to know about shame and what it does to a person. That's all based on the work of Brene Brown. Mm-hmm. Shame, resilience, compassion, empathy. And when we went to shelters, now we were able to say, we have this offering and we would like to give it to you. We started trying to give it to the clients, but I don't know if you remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. When you don't know where your food and shelter and safety is coming from, you cannot think of, I'm going to go to a class on boundaries. You first have to know where you're going to live. So that was the wrong population. Then we decided to do the classes for the shelter staff. And that was a hit. And our theory is, if we care for the caregivers, then the caregivers will care for themselves. They will show up at home a more calm and peaceful person, peaceful spouse, peaceful parent, peaceful friend, and they will show up at work more grounded and centered and be able to take care of themselves. And so that's where the self-care is so key. Now, we never think of self-care as, oh yeah, why don't you just go get a manicure and get a pedicure and sure, go have a bottle of wine. That is not our self-care. Yes, manicures and pedicures it's not a luxury, it's a necessity because we need to take care of our bodies. But for us, self-care is the ability to know who we are, know what we want, be able to communicate those things to others in such a way that we will be able to set boundaries without anger. We'll be able to say no without having to scream about it. And when we feel shame, like I feel shame when I think of screaming and yelling at my children, I will know what to do with myself to move through the shame and into compassion for me. And that is a learned thing. Those things are learned skills.
Right. And those skills are crucial for
And
us.
nobody teaches them. We don't learn them at home because our parents don't know them. We don't learn them in elementary school, middle school, or high school. We never learn them.
We're too busy learning, trigonometry that's never going to help us.
And when we have children, we're expected to teach what we do not know to the children. So we raise another generation of not knowing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, and the boundaries and all of that you touched base on, that has to be like our top priority for our self-care. And I know that I'll be the first to admit I am horrible at maintaining my boundaries, to the point where, the past few weeks I have been so overwhelmed and so stressed out. Yesterday I hit a point of despair that I have never in my life felt. And I was scared. I'm not talking like suicide or anything, but I just felt so empty and felt so hopeless. And I was just like, screw it all,
Tracy, something's wrong with my computer. That has never happened before.
Oh no, I didn't even realize you left. I was just sitting here talking.
Yeah, I was gone for, anyway. I guess I need a computer person.
I don't know, unless it's just Zoom. I had some problems with Zoom yesterday with somebody as well.
Maybe it is Zoom. But it's not just that I'm losing you. My computer's going black.
Okay, then yeah, that's a computer thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up. I'll go back and kind of talk a little bit about what I was saying, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
So everything that you just touched base on is so crucial and so important for self-care, and yet it's boundaries and all that. That's probably the number one thing that we as women, as caregivers, drop. Myself included. I will be the first to admit I do not adhere to my own boundaries, to the point where I live in complete overwhelm.
Oh.
And overwhelming stress. And it's actually starting to manifest itself as debilitating depression.
Oh, Tracy. Hey, we need to talk more offline.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I totally understand the importance of, we have to put ourselves first. And yet I sit here and I think, okay, well, if I do this for me, then I'm not going to be able to do this for them and this for them and that for them. And I'm not going to have time to get this thing and that thing. And so my stuff, whatever it is, whether it's eating healthy, going to the gym, meditating, my own business work, whatever it is, gets shoved off to the side. And then I start feeling resentful toward myself, toward other people, So that self-care piece, it's got to be almost as important to us as eating and breathing.
It's more important. If you don't eat, you're going to die. If you don't breathe, you're going to die. If you don't start being your own priority, you're going to die, but in a different way. There are things in your body now that are saying, hey, you're not going to take care. I'll shut it down for you.
Yeah.
The body will say, I have had enough. And when you are in the bed and you can't do for them, then what's going to happen?
Right.
So you want to catch it before it gets to that point. And I would like to tell all the listeners that we have all these classes for free on our website. And it's just like playing an MP3, like a song. You can just download it and play it in your car, play it on the run that nobody's doing, or on the walk that nobody's doing, but play it, right? Right. And even if you get one or two skills that you think, hey, okay, that's easy enough, I can do that, then practice those until you want more, and then go back to listen. But if you don't even start, you
have to start somewhere.
You have to, and so I'm going to use you. If Tracy is not important enough for Tracy, who is going to be? Like, why is anybody more important than you? You don't have to answer.
Well, it's just one of those things where that's how we're raised. That's kind of ingrained in us that our kids come first, our spouses and partners come first.
Men are not raised like that.
No, us as women. No. That's how
it's
women
only
are
women. Yes.
Yeah.
And we can decide that what we have been told is partly a lie.
Yeah.
That if we are not fully and completely healthy and in our own bodies and minds, we're really only giving a tiny percentage of who we are to other people.
That's so true.
Yeah. And we deserve, all of us, and they deserve all that we can give as we carve our time for ourselves. And I know that some people are going to say that's selfish, and that's okay. If you want to say it's selfish, do it anyway. See how good it could feel when you become more healthy. And then when people call you selfish, say, thank you for sharing. I really didn't ask your opinion, but okay.
Yes. I was watching Brene Brown's documentary last night.
Yeah.
And she says, I wrote it down because I was like, oh, I like that. She says, if you are not in the arena being brave and getting your ass kicked, I am not interested in your criticism of my work. Exactly. And that's basically the exact same thing. If you are not out there doing, walking in my shoes, living my life and knowing my struggles and stuff, I don't care what you have to say.
Yeah. And I am brave enough to tell you to your face.
Exactly. I know. Run along. Go back to the puppy.
Yeah. Go run along, babe. Didn't ask.
All right. Well, this has been, I think you and I could talk for a very long time.
I'm sure we can.
And this has been absolutely wonderful. Ladies, if you get nothing out of this other than you have to be number one in your life in order to be able to take care of everybody else that we have to take care of. Because
Tracy, can I give one little piece of homework?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, ladies, grab a piece of paper and write the names of, and Tracy, you do this too, write the 5 people most important in your life. Okay, you're writing and you're writing and you're writing and you're getting to 5, and now put down the pens and look at the list. And if you are not on the list, you have to cross a name out and put your name at the top and see how hard that feels. It feels like I just asked you to kill somebody.
Right. Well, which one of my kids do I kill here to you know?
Yeah, to put your name at the top.
Yeah. That is hard.
Yeah, that's hard.
But where, what I was saying was, if you're sick and bad, you have debilitating depression, and all you can do is just crawl under the covers, you're not doing those 5 people a damn bit of good anyway.
A damn bit of good anyway.
So, how much better are you going to be for them if you put yourself at the top of that list first?
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you love anybody any less. It actually means that you respect yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And ladies, as always, thank you so much for listening each week. I will never, ever be able to put into words how much I appreciate each and every one of you. As always, make sure you join us over on Facebook in our group. It is our safe haven, our sanctuary. What happens in that group stays in that group. There's no hate, no judgment, total love and support and uplifting, no matter what you're going through. Facebook.com/groups/Daring Woman. We will see you over there. And